Welcome back to the channel, and carrying on today with the cutting of the biscuit joints and then gluing up the process. Now, last week we started gluing up the first two of the panels, and I've been giving some thought to my workflow over this next session, because if I'm only doing two panels at a time, then that's really going to slow me down. So can I do anything better? We'll come to that in a minute, but over the week there have been several comments on the channel, and I really want to say thank you for the feedback that you're giving me. It's really giving me things to think about, and certainly things that I need to start implementing at some time. But anyway, the first one was, you remember last time I tried using the bench router for cutting the biscuits and then compared it with the dedicated biscuit jointer, and part of my problem was that I couldn't hold the wood steady for using the dedicated jointer. Well, Kia mentioned using bench hooks, and it is something I need to think about. Yes, I can do something with these T-slots on the bench, but it's something I'm going to have to give some thought to how I'm going to implement that. But thanks for the heads up. Part of the problem was the clamps that I'm using. I had thought to start with using these clamps, but my problem was that gap there, and not much good for gluing boards up. Well, there was one comment: try laying the clamps on their side so that that bar and these two ends can support. So that's something I'm going to have a go at today, and we'll see how that goes. Now, I really want to say thank you to Gaz, otherwise known as Maker Boy Old Boy. He pointed me in the direction of Stumpy Nubs video that he did with regard to the glue setup. I've got to find that one yet, but it is on my to-do list. Thanks, Gaz. But one video I did come across during the week, and I'll put a link to this one in the description below. Woodcraft by Suman is the channel, and his video is "You're clamping too long." Now, these have been in the clamps all week, and he said that's typical. In fact, many, he said, you're clamping for 24 hours. Well, these have been 168 hours, and that's far too long, and really detailed going through the glue and the clamping process with testing the strength of joints. And his conclusion, clamp for about an hour and then release. So that in itself is going to speed my workflow up, because I can get several of these boards glued up and then starting to set while I'm working on others. So that's certainly something I'm going to be doing this afternoon. But talking about workflow, if I'm only going to be cutting and then gluing according to the clamps that I've got, it's going to really slow me down, because you'll remember from last time I had problems because of this fence in manoeuvring things. So what I've decided, I am going to just cut all of the slots all at once, and then I'm going to be able to move the fence to give me more room to work. That's the plan. We'll see how that one goes. So here we go, releasing the first of these panels. Now, in previous glue ups, I've always used soft wood blocks. They're little offcuts that I've saved up in a separate box for the edges. Now, I didn't do it this time, thinking the oak would be hard enough, but these clamps have bruised the wood slightly, so I think I'm going to have to go back to using those blocks just by way of cushioning the clamps. I'm pleased with the way that these have gone, and very little sanding by way of tidying up afterward. Yes, there's a bit of glue spill, and I've got the pencil marks to get out later, but at least I've got these two glued up nicely. That's the second one, and again a little bit of bruising here and here and at the other side, but we can sort that out later. Right, move the clamps, move the wood stock. Okay, so we're all ready. There we go. So that's all 14 panels with their slots cut, and that went very, very well. That's really emphasised to me the advantage of doing things in batches, because you can really get a rhythm up to it, and really I don't think it's cost anything more than about 20 minutes to cut all of those slots. So just dismantle the fence and then I can start the glue up process. So now we're going to start the glue up process, and I've got a dozen biscuits that I've just put in the microwave just to dry out slightly. So it's a case of just making sure I'm putting the right piece with the right piece. There we go. So, and don't worry about this little bit here, that's going to get trimmed off in the final panel. And this is where I find out whether the little tip about the quick clamps is going to work for me. So here's that was the theory. What's the practice? So, can you see how that's working? Because I couldn't imagine it when I first came, when somebody first suggested the tip, but that's gone nicely. Just got to be careful with the board's bowing. So just do the other side. Well, that glued up very nicely and quickly. I'm pleased with that one. So I've used all 4 of the quick clamps on that first board, so getting back to the sash clamps, and this is what I was talking about earlier with just protecting the edge with little offcuts of softwood. So all I'm doing at the moment is making sure the bars are roughly set up to minimise the amount of clamp movement. Now, you remember I also mentioned Woodcraft by Suman, and one of the little points that he mentioned with regard to tight bond, tight bond recommend a minimum of 30 minutes clamping, and his experiments brought that up to about an hour of clamping, but there's plenty of wiggle room by way of time, so I don't have to rush so much. So that's the clamps roughly set up. Yep, that one there. Okay, and my big problem is everything tipping when I don't want it to, so we'll see how it goes. It will stop up. So I've got 1, 2, 3 gluing up, and that was the first one. So needed about an hour before I release the clamps. What time is it now? It's 3:30, so that one will have been about 20 minutes, half an hour ago. So let me just make sure these are, the glue pot is sealed. Clean the brush so that doesn't go off, and then I might get another panel done before I have to pack up for today. We'll see how it goes. Right, so release the clamps from this first piece that I started gluing up. And just let that carry on curing. So in the meantime, this is the next piece. we go. Now that is as far as I'm going this afternoon. I've got these two to release in a wee while this afternoon. This one I'm going to release later on this afternoon. But all in all, it's been a very successful afternoon. I've got, well, this will be the 4th panel that I'm putting together, and so that's a lot quicker than last week, doubled the amount of gluing. Next week I'll be able to get more of these panels glued up because I won't have any actual cutting to do. So yes, things are coming along nicely. Thanks for coming along with me on this journey and for all of your feedback on what I'm doing here on the channel. It's a great help, and especially the suggestion with these clamps and how to use them. That has really saved a lot of time because it means I can get more of the panels actually put together. So please let me know what you think to what you've seen, and if you've got any other suggestions, I'm always willing to see if I can put them into practice. But as I say, thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you next time.